when 8-year-old Stevie Branch and his two friends, Michael Moore and Christopher Byers, were murdered in 1993. The story shook the country as the hunt for their killers began. The police soon settled on 3 teenagers, Damian Eccles, Jesse Miskelly, and Jason Baldwin. Although there was no real evidence against the teens, there was a large amount of emotional bias. The 3 were found guilty, with Eccles being sentenced to death, while the other 2 were given life sentences. Not everyone believed that they were guilty, however, and many suspected that Terry Hobbs, Stevie Branch's stepfather, was the one truly to blame. Strengthening this belief is the fact that Hobbs's DNA is the only one ever to be found on the victims, although he has never been considered a suspect. Over the years, Hobbs has taken legal action against various people who say that the West Memphis 3 deserve a new trial, saying he is being persecuted and accused of a crime he didn't commit. Is there any truth to Hobbs's claims, or does he have something to hide? And if you haven't yet, check out the first half of Terry Hobbs's deposition by clicking the link on the top right.
Right. Let's look at Document 9 and Stipulation 1, which is a July 20, 2007 report from Action News. Action News, that's Janice Broach, right? That's the lady you dealt with, right? Wanted to get your story out, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's the same Janice, right?
It is.
And Action 5 News,
Right.
Action News 5, that's where she works, right? Right?
Right.
Did she, in fact, and this is a report of she reported, did they not, Channel 5 News on July the 20th, 2007, new DNA testing by the defense shows that none of the genetic material recovered from the murder scene links the West Memphis 3 to the scene. Instead, defense attorneys say the test found DNA from Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of one of the murdered boys. They reported that in July of 2007, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you start to get some calls from neighbors or friends when this was reported by Janice?
Oh, yeah.
All right. And was this report, July the 27th report, was this a result of you reaching out to her to try to get your story out? Because you say I'd have to laugh at that and say there's something wrong with someone who would think that. This is part of your trying to get the story out about the DNA, right?
Probably. Looks like it.
Looks like it. In here, this Exhibit 9 to Stipulation 1, you say all those things in there? Are you accurately quoted, Mr. Hobbs?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. And so you did say if Michael Moore or Christopher Byers had a piece of my hair on their shoestrings, well, these little boys came to my house and played with our little boy pretty regularly, Hobbs said. Well, you said that, right?
Right.
Right. And so it's also reported here by Channel 5 News that the DNA results also revealed, according to court documents, that most of the DNA at the crime scene came from the victims, but some of it cannot be connected to the victims or the defendants. I don't know what to make of that, Hobbs said. It's their job to do what they do. You quoted that, right? You quoted correctly there?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. And some of that DNA is also leaked to Mr. Jacoby, right?
In 2013, 2 men gave testimonies that placed Hobbs and Jacoby at the scene, along with several other people. It is claimed that the 3 boys came across the group by accident and witnessed them engaged in sexual activities. This was supposedly the motive for the murders.
I don't know. There's 1 in so many million that could be him or could not be him. Same with mine.
So it's it's your belief and your understanding that the DNA reports show that it's pretty common to have a match like that? Is that your understanding?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Just asking for your understanding.
No.
No, it's pretty common that it's a pretty close match from your, isn't it?
No, not what I understand it wasn't.
What do you understand it to be?
1 in so many millions it could have been. And no one has ever told me it's your hair or it's David's hair. The defense has come up with this and tried to convince everybody it was. The police has never one time said yes it was to me.
Okay.
tricks of the trade, y'all call it.
And we'll talk about it in a minute. Exhibit 10 to Stipulation 1. Another article, or another newscast from Channel 8 in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Mother of West Memphis 3 victims speaks out about the new DNA evidence. Oh, I have one question, I'm sorry. Back here on Exhibit 9. Talk about according to court documents. Did you have an understanding of what court documents they're referring to here? The DNA results also revealed according to most documents. That's the habeas filing, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Did you understand that to be when you spoke with Janice, trying to get your story out, that was the court filings?
Just by point of clarification, the habeas filing occurred in October. This was months before the habeas filing. That can't be the habeas filing.
Do you know what court documents they're referring to? In the newscast on Channel 8 in Jonesboro, July 20, 2007, the TV station reports, now over a decade later, defense attorneys are saying a piece of hair found in one of the victim's shoelaces could link the crime scene to Stevie Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs. I mean, and I can go through several of these, Mr. Hobbs, and I don't need to, don't necessarily want to, but would it be fair to say that starting in late spring, early summer, 07, it was fairly well known to those that followed the West Memphis 3 case that your DNA had been linked to the crime scene?
Objection, he can't possibly know what other people thought based on news reports.
Can I ask what he thinks? You think it's pretty well known that at least your DNA, it was out there in the press. The press was reporting that your DNA was linked to the crime scene.
Right, the press was reporting that.
Okay. Okay.
But it still doesn't mean that any of that out there was my DNA.
I appreciate that.
Or it doesn't mean that to me.
Did you ever talk to the police about the DNA?
No.
They never asked you about it?
Oh, I'm not sure. And I went and answered some questions with them. I don't remember what kind of questions we had. I've done that video with them. I read that thing, and that's a joke.
What video? The press conference?
No.
What video, Mr. Hobbs?
One that they got me in that room asking me all them questions.
Oh. That's part of when the West Memphis police then interviewed you again in June of 07?
Okay.
Hobbs is dismissive of the questions asked by the police and seems to resent that he was questioned at all. Unfortunately, the truth is that these acts are usually done by someone the victim knows, and the police focus on close family members as a matter of routine. Right now on my Patreon, you can watch an intense video that shows a man jumping from the 5th floor to escape from the police. The way the whole situation unfolded is truly shocking. You can watch this and many more exclusive videos on my Patreon page at patreon.com/strangerstoriesplus.
Is that right?
Sounds close.
And how many times have you been interviewed by the West Memphis police in conjunction with the murders?
None, probably. This one they did. I'm thinking there might have been one I know I went and done fingerprints and feet prints, and I'm still never not a suspect, and I wasn't one back then. Please note that. And I have made this statement: if you think I'm a suspect, call the police department. They'll clear that up for you.
On Channel 5, July the 21st. This is document number 12 in stipulation 1. Miss Broach says, but now new DNA testing shows a hair from one of the boy's stepfather, Terry Hobbs, was found in shoelaces to tie up the eight-year-old boys.
So?
So I'm just saying that it was reported widely that your DNA was found, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was reported widely well prior to the time that Ms. Pasdar posted her letter or appeared at the rally, right?
It was going on at the time she jumped on the bandwagon.
On Channel 5 on the 21st, they also talk about finding the knives and the knife that Stevie's grandfather had given him in your stuff.
So?
The knife was a prized possession of Stevie's, and it was always with him. He would have had it with him that day, and it should have been found on or near his body.
Did you have in your possession, Mr. Hobbs?
Oh, no. I think I still have his pocket knife.
You have Stevie's pocket knife?
I think so.
And is that a pocket knife that Stevie carried with him on a
Until
regular
I
basis?
found it, until I seen my stepson, who wasn't old enough to have a pocket knife, I felt like I took the pocket knife from him and put it in a drawer with the rest of our pocket knives.
Okay. How would you respond to witnesses who would testify that Stevie carried that knife with him up until the time that he disappeared?
I think you'll find out people will say anything, but they don't have the facts.
What facts do you have to prove that you took the knife from Stevie?
I was his dad. I was acting as a responsible parent, not letting a 6, 7, 8-year-old little boy carry a pocket knife.
Weren't you aware that his mother, said that he carried the knife with him up until the time that he disappeared?
She also said I killed the boys too. And yes, I'm very much aware of all that.
Okay. The knives were reported in in the letter that Ms. Pasdar posted on the internet, wasn't it?
Okay.
Well, that's one of the things, right? That you're complaining about that.
Object to the characterization of him complaining about the knives. In fact, the Eccles petition says that knives were not used.
We are back on record after a tape change at 2:13 p.m.
Still under oath, right, Mr. Hobbs?
Yes, sir.
When you first saw or first learned of the letter that Ms. Pasdar posted on the Dixie Chicks website in late November or early December of '07, did you make any effort to reach out to Ms. Pasdar or the Dixie Chicks?
No, sir.
Why not?
Why should I?
To see why they posted it? To get them to retract it? Did you take any effort to communicate with them whatsoever?
I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't be in that position.
So I take it your answer to my question is no. You didn't.
Exactly.
Okay.
They interfered in my business, our family's business. We've done nothing to them.
What else? Anything else?
Nope.
Why do you think the little boys were murdered?
I don't know why.
How do you think they were murdered?
I don't know how.
When were they murdered?
I'm not sure about that either.
Where were they murdered?
I think West Memphis. I don't know.
Who murdered them?
3 young men in prison.
Is it a matter of, do you believe, sir, that it's a matter of public concern as to who murdered the 3 little boys?
Object to the extent
Just asking,
for a legal conclusion.
asking his opinion. Does he have an opinion as to whether or not it's a matter of public concern to get to the truth of who murdered the 3 little boys?
It doesn't matter what I think. They're going to get involved anyway.
It's not my question. Sir, would you answer my question?
Same objection.
Repeat the question.
Is it a matter of public concern as to who murdered the 3 little boys?
Shouldn't be,
Repeat
but
the
it is.
objection.
Shouldn't be, but it is. Why shouldn't it be a matter of public concern as to who committed 3 heinous murders?
Because there's 3 bastards sitting in prison for it today.
And that was that trial back in '94 was a matter of national and international concern, was it not?
So,
So it was a matter of public concern back when the West Memphis Three were tried and convicted, but it's not a matter of public concern now if there are questions about the sufficiency of the verdict and the trial and the evidence?
There are concerns about the trial because there was evidence that the defense was not allowed to show. It would have at least cast sufficient doubt that they committed the crime.
I'm happy with the trials.
I understand that, but my question is it your testimony that it was a matter of public concern at the original trial, but it's not a matter of public concern today?
It doesn't matter to me what the public thinks about it.
You told us earlier that it's not a matter of public concern now because there was a trial. And my question to you, sir, is was it a matter of public concern in the early to mid-'90s when there was a trial, but it's not a matter of public concern now?
I don't know.
Objection to the extent that calls for a legal conclusion.
Asking for this witness's opinion.
I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know if it's a matter of public concern about who murdered the three little boys today.
There's 3 boys sitting in prison today.
Is it possible, Mr. Hobbs, that they were wrongfully convicted?
Not in my opinion.
Is it possible, while you may believe and have the opinion that they were properly tried and properly convicted, you'll acknowledge, won't you, sir, that others have an entirely different opinion?
Everybody's entitled to their own,
Opinion. And everybody's entitled to express that opinion, are they not?
to some degree.
Okay. And it is a matter of public concern. You would agree with me, sir, that it's a matter of public concern about whether or not the West Memphis Three were wrongfully tried and convicted of murder. That can be an issue of public debate, can it not?
A low mentality public, probably.
Okay.
Hobbs's assessment is harsh. It isn't a lack of intelligence that makes people concerned with whether or not justice was truly served. And before we continue, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. Today's video has no sponsor, so if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be extremely appreciated.
Your wife Pam's entitled to her opinion as to whether or not the West Memphis Three were wrongfully tried and convicted, are they not?
She is.
And you're entitled to your opinion as to whether or not they were wrongfully tried and convicted, correct?
I am.
I'm sorry?
I am.
And your wife Pam's entitled to her opinion as to whether or not you were involved.
She is entitled.
Right. And Ms. Pazdar's entitled to her opinion as to whether or not the West Memphis Three were wrongfully convicted, is she not?
She is.
Okay. And the Dixie Chicks are entitled to their to have an opinion as to whether or not the West Memphis Three were wrongfully convicted, correct?
They are.
Will those be offered as deposition exhibits?
Oh, these are all deposition exhibits.
Okay.
I don't know that I need to offer them under the federal rules. They're just exhibits.
But they will be attached to the deposition.
Oh, absolutely. Paragraph 19 to your complaint, sir, that you reviewed and approved prior to the time it was filed, you state that Ms. Pazdar's repeated libelous publications concerning the involvement of plaintiff, which is you, was, among other things, false and reckless at the time of publication. And my question to you, sir, is what facts do you have to support your belief that her statements were reckless?
Because she don't know what she's talking about.
How do you know that?
Because she's accusing me.
Other than the fact that you don't think
And
she
I
looked,
know that I didn't do this.
do you know what she looked at?
I don't even care
You don't care.
what she looked at.
The fact that, in your opinion, she's wrong makes it reckless.
Sure, why not?
Do you have any reason to believe that she knew that what she was saying was false at the time she said it?
I had
To
no
the extent that it calls
recollection.
for a legal
I mean, you
conclusion.
have no factual basis to say that Ms. Pazdar knew that what she was saying was false at the time she said it, do you?
Objection to the extent that it calls for a legal conclusion.
Asking for facts, counsel.
I would think that she probably read the police report where they said that he wasn't a suspect, Then he ain't now, and then she just shot off.
Do you know that she read the police report?
I don't. Do you?
I see. I get to ask the questions. That's the great thing about today, Mr. Hobbs. Is I get to ask the questions.
I don't know that she didn't.
Do you know that if she looked at the press release?
I don't know what she looked at.
You know, if she watched the press conference?
I don't know what she watched.
Do you know who she talked to, if anyone, on behalf of the defense team?
I don't know.
So as we sit here today, you have no facts that would support your belief that Ms. Pazdar knew that what she was saying was false at the time she said it.
Same objection as earlier.
Right?
I don't know where she get her information from, but she should have talked to somebody who knew about it.
My question, I need you to answer my question, because it's an important question, Mr. Hobbs, which is, do you have any facts or do you have any documents that support your allegation that Ms. Pazdar knew that the facts that she was stating on either her letter or at the rally were false at the time she made it?
Same objection.
There is no reason to suspect that Maine did not believe her statements to be true.
You don't, do you?
I don't know where she gets her information from.
Okay. You just know you didn't do it. And you just know it's not your DNA. Do you know it's not your DNA? You don't know one way or another if it's your DNA, do you?
Well, I've never been convinced it was mine. The police have never pulled me in there and said it's yours.
And that's not my question. My question is, you don't know for a fact that it's not yours, do you?
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's not.
Paragraph 21, Mr. Holmes. The acts of the defendants have caused you to suffer personal injuries. Right? That's what you say. Right?
And
What personal injuries?
emotional,
What other personal injuries?
dealing with my family over it, watching my kids go through it. That causes you some problems too.
Emotional. How have your emotional injuries manifested themselves? And is this separate from the personal breakdown you had in March when you lived in the back of your car?
Okay.
Is it? Or are these the same emotional injuries?
No, I've had to deal with a lot of things through all this.
And I am sympathetic and appreciate that. I really am. But my question to you, sir, is representing my client, is I'm trying to figure out what emotional damages you have suffered as a result of the statements that my client made, as opposed to the national and international scrutiny that's been going on for months and months and months prior to the time that my client had anything to say.
Objection to the extent it calls for a legal conclusion.
I'm simply asking you what damages you have suffered.
Same objection.
I don't know.
Can you sit here, can you point to me one damage that is separate and apart from all of the things that we talked about starting in the summer and the spring of '07 that is caused as a result of what Ms. Pazdar said?
Objection requires, to the extent it requires a legal conclusion.
I'm not asking for a legal conclusion, counsel.
Sure,
I'm
you're
asking
asking
for the facts.
You're asking for him to apply the facts to the law of causation.
I'm
And he doesn't
asking
know
for
what
facts.
proximate cause
I'm
is.
just asking for facts.
You're linking the facts you're asking to causation, which is a legal concept, which he's not required to address.
Although Hobbs's attorney is quick to object to the line of questioning, Hobbs is only being asked his opinion.
Can you answer the question, Mr. Hobbs?
No.
No? Have you been to any doctors since November of '07?
I have a doctor friend I called.
What doctor from?
Mike Mitchell. He wanted me to come in and visit with him. I was aggravated and mad and would not go. I just wanted him to give me something for my blood pressure.
Okay. So you didn't go?
No,
Have you sought and received any care from a physician due to this emotional distress?
no, but I could.
But you
I
haven't,
just
as you
don't
sit here today.
believe in too much doctrine.
Okay. Are you able, Mr. Hobbs, to separate the emotional injury that you suffered as a result of the underlying murders themselves as opposed to what Ms. Pazdar said in November of '07?
Objection to the extent that calls for legal conclusion.
Just ask if you can separate that injury.
I'm going to say no.
Can you separate it from the stress and the emotional toil that I'm sure the trials themselves put upon you and your family?
Nope.
How about the ongoing appeals by the three boys? Can you separate that out?
No one's ever brought my name into it up until '07.
My question, sir, is are you able to separate the injury, the emotional
Nope.
injury, between the ongoing appeals and what Ms. Pazdar said?
Nope. Because they've been going before she come along.
What about the anxiety and distress and injury that your interaction with the defense team and their investigators has caused you? Ron Lax.
Caused me a lot of problems.
Matter of fact, you've testified, or not testified, you quoted in newspaper articles saying they ruined your life.
They helped.
Hell, and the Mr. Reardon and the defense counsel, they've ruined your life.
They had a part of it too.
Are you able to distinguish any of that, the ruining of your life, by the investigators or the defense counsel from the letter that Ms. Pazdar posted on the website or the statement that she made at the rally?
You put them all together, and I shouldn't have a life, should I?
Didn't say that. I certainly didn't say that. That wasn't my question. My question
That's
is,
how it is.
can you separate it out?
I don't have to.
Can you? I'm asking you if you
No.
can. Can you separate out the emotional injury that you have suffered as a result of the countless newspaper, media, television articles about the murder, the appeals, and quite frankly, the recent connection of your DNA to the crime scene, separate and apart from that which Ms. Pazdar's letter or statement at the rally?
Nope.
You state any other than talk about personal injuries, talked about emotional injury, any other personal injuries, Mr. Hobbs? Or is that pretty much it from the personal injury side?
I don't know.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it? Okay. Talks about the next one, injury to your reputation.
The speculation surrounding Hobbs has negatively affected his social life and possibly even his ability to get a job.
How has Ms. Pazdar's statement in the letter or at the rally injured your reputation as compared?
Just add injury to injury is what it does.
Add injury to injury. Because Ms. Pazdar certainly wasn't saying anything new, was she?
No,
And all it was just one more celebrity.
let's kick him while he's down.
Well, it was one more celebrity asking folks to become involved, to send money in and make the politicians aware of what was going on. That's what she was doing, wasn't it?
With nothing
Object to the
going on.
characterization of the letter.
There wasn't anything going on? They hadn't filed the habeas? There
I
wasn't?
don't know.
there
They're just
wasn't-
trying to make a bunch of nothing out of nothing.
Why would she do that?
Ask her.
Well, I'm asking you, do you
I
have an
don't
opinion
know
as to why she thinks she would do
I don't
that?
care why. She needs to mind her own business.
Because it's none of her business if you were involved.
I wasn't involved, and her saying I was, she
It's-
needs to understand that.
It's none of her business if 3 innocent teenagers, what were young teens, now young adults, sit in jail for crimes they didn't commit. That's not her business, is it?
And then maybe she needs to address that and leave me out of it.
What was your reputation? I just want you to tell me what your reputation was prior to November the 26th, 2007, Mr. Hobbs. Taking into account your whole life experience and everybody that knew you, what was your reputation?
Pretty screwed up one, ain't it?
Is that your answer?
Nope,
Oh, okay.
that's off the record.
And then it's not off the record. And honestly, I would agree that's pretty screwed up.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Seems like the more people gets a hold of it, they try to make it the worse for you.
Well,
But
I mean, you've got
before
out. I
that-
mean, you've had out. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What was your
Go ahead.
what was your reputation in the community prior to November the 26th, 2007, Mr.
A man that's been through hell.
Okay. And what was your reputation after Miss Hobbs made the statement and appeared at the rally? It's the same, wasn't it?
Miss Pastor.
Miss Pastor. That was after Miss Pastor posted her letter and spoke at the rally. Reputation was the same, wasn't it?
Let's kick him while he's down.
But had your reputation changed?
Couldn't get any better.
Couldn't get any worse, could it? Or could it?
Yeah, it could get
Could
worse.
it get worse?
The more big mouths out there shooting off, yeah, it gets worse.
Okay. You'll agree that you'd led a, shall we say, a colorful life?
I've had a good life up until the murders of our little boy.
Hobbs does his best to downplay the less than exemplary reputation he had prior to the murder of Stevie and the other boys.
And then it all went south, didn't it?
It could have been better.
Arrested for drug use and possession.
Half a joint.
Accused of molesting your teenage daughter.
A bunch.
Divorced. Bankruptcy. Lawsuits. You shot your brother-in-law. You're nationally connected through international press in the summer of '07 with DNA, your DNA at a crime scene, the murder of your little boy and 2 other little boys.
Object, compound question.
And,
That was your reputation prior to November of '07, wasn't it?
Same objection.
And it's the same. How can it get worse?
it would get better if people quit jumping on the bandwagon.
How could it get worse? How did what Miss Pasdar say damage your reputation any more than what the conduct that you had led through the last 15 years done?
She just pulls more in people, influence in that people don't even pay attention until celebrities get on board.
So she threw light on the subject.
She didn't throw light on nothing. She shot off.
My question to you, sir, is how did your reputation change, other than the fact that Ms. Pasdar shot off and brought more people to look at the West Memphis 3 website and what went on, which is what she said. Look at the website. Look at the evidence. Look at the habeas corpus, the court pleadings, and make a judgment for yourself. How is that any different than throwing light on the facts and asking people to make their own minds up? How did that damage your reputation?
'Cause people tend to believe celebrities. Even though some of them don't know what they're talking about, people will follow their stories.
This, at least, is a valid point. Many people will take anything said by a celebrity at face value.
Any other way that your reputation was harmed, Mr. Hobbs?
Ain't no telling.
No, this is the time to tell.
There ain't no telling.
Can you
Ain't no telling what other quacks out there quacking off.
Can you articulate for me any other way? This is my one chance. Before you get up on the witness stand, take the oath again in front of a federal court judge and swear what went on. This is my chance to find out how you believe you've been harmed. And so I want to know how your reputation
I've
has
been threatened. Has anyone told you that?
No, sir.
I have been.
Who threatened you?
Some quack on the internet.
When did this happen?
There's a police report over there. It's the second police report that I couldn't think about.
Okay.
There's a police report about it.
All right. When did this happen?
couple months ago.
Okay.
And these people are reading everything they see on the internet and forming an opinion. Okay? And now they're threatening me over this crap. And don't sit here and try to get me to feel good about it, because I don't. And this woman shooting off like she has no right to jump in on there and do this.
We need both police reports, obviously.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you they're at the police department.
Any other damage to your reputation, sir? Anything else you want to tell me? You're going to tell the jury about how you've been harmed as a result of my client's conduct.
No comment. No, don't know.
No? Okay. A third element of your damage is here, Mr. Hobbs. You say that your injury to your business and professional and business. You've got professional and business damages. All right. Well, what professional and business damage? And I'm reading from paragraph 21. What professional and business damages do you have that you're seeking to recover? Any?
It'd be nice to see people quit coming in my business and saying, do you see what they're on TV saying about this man today? They're talking to me, and they're talking about me, threatening, making their threats. It'd be nice if these people way back here,
Which
wherever it is, it'd be nice if, I don't have the Dixie Chicks report, but it'd be nice if them people back there would quit doing what they're doing so I can go to work and not have to worry about people coming in my place of business and threatening the person. They don't even know who it is, and it's me. Because of everything that has happened in the past. That happens.
What happens?
Well, I just told you.
Oh, that happens. Okay. So it's happened more than the fellow from Australia?
Exactly.
How many times?
I don't keep up with them. I get tired of them.
More than 5? More than 10? Once a month? Once a year? How often does it happen, Mr.
Just
Hobbs?
like I told you, I don't keep up with them.
Well, I'm trying to get a sense for how often did you say folks come into your business and hassle you?
I don't have to just say, there's people sitting right in there that hear it too.
I'm sorry. Say what? I didn't understand. There are people out here in the conference
There's
room?
people in my work that has sat there and heard the people come in and say stuff about it.
People just talk about you. You don't like it.
They don't even know it's me they're talking about. They're just in there talking about it.
There is no escape from the past for Hobbs. At home or at work, the subject of the murders comes up regularly.
It meaning the West Memphis 3 and
About the new DNA, about the stepdad that they think done it. They're showing his picture all over the news.
Okay. Well, have you been fired from your job because of that?
No.
Okay. Have you lost hours because of it?
Yeah, I've had some problems.
What problems?
Losing time, sleep.
I'm not talking about sleep at the moment. I'm talking about have you lost time from work because people are coming in and hassling you about
No,
it?
I don't lose time. I go back and stay away until people leave.
Okay, you just don't come to... Who's your boss?
His name's Terry Davis.
Where's he work? What's the name of your company right now?
Discount.
You're a salesman?
I am.
What's the business address of your company, sir?
The business what?
Address?
Let's see.
Okay. And what are your duties as a salesman?
Sell products.
Who do you sell product to?
Publix.
Publix grocery?
People.
People in the public. Give me
It's a Home Depot type operation.
Okay, so you basically help people find things. If I need to come in and find something to fix my washer, you
Correct.
help me.
Correct.
Okay. And how long you had that job?
A little over 2 years.
2 years. Oh, what'd you do before?
Courier work.
Courier. What kind of courier work?
Transporting goods from one place to another.
Like a truck driver?
No, courier.
Courier papers?
Papers, letters, boxes. Now you're on a private contractor.
Okay. Why'd you move from a courier to a salesman? Better job?
No, excuse me. No, that is the time when all this stuff started coming out on the news, and I had made my mind up that I was going to just move and get away from Memphis. I was tired of the crap that was going around on the news.
So you left town and got a different job?
Well, I didn't get to leave town.
Right. But that was your goal. You wanted to leave town.
Right.
So people come in and they want to talk, as you're helping them find stuff to fix the washer and dryer or the sink. And they just, part of the conversation comes up, kind of West Memphis 3?
Oh, you wouldn't believe it.
Okay. All right. How often does that happen?
It used to happen quite a bit.
Okay. And they would do that not even knowing that you're Terry Hobbs, right?
Exactly. Just seeing it on the news, they would just come in and start talking about it.
And this has been going on since you got there, right?
I started there just before this started.
All right. And those types of people coming in wanting to talk about the West Memphis 3, that happened pretty much from the get-go when you started?
I started before it started on the news.
Okay. Did that same sort of discussions or community discussion happen while you were a courier?
No, because it hadn't started yet.
It hadn't started yet. It all started in the spring of '07 when the DNA results were released.
Right.
Right. Okay. You have the same position today as when you started in '07?
I do.
Same pay scale?
Roughly.
Hadn't been demoted?
No.
Hadn't been promoted?
No.
Just kind of same,
There won't
status
be
quo?
no promotion there. You're just there.
just status quo?
Yeah.
Okay.
The news coverage and gossip have made his work uncomfortable, but it has not affected his income.
How else have you been hurt in your professional or business, Mr. Hobbs?
I don't know.
Well, see, this
Dealing with the public.
is my time to ask, and this is your time to tell me.
I just told you.
Just dealing with the public.
I shouldn't have to deal with the public over this.
Again, in paragraph 23, sir, we're talking about intentional infliction of emotional distress or / outrageous conduct. Paragraph 23, you talk about that Ms. Pazdar's conduct was intentional and reckless. What facts, if any, do you have that demonstrate that her conduct was intentional? You don't have any, do you, other than what you've told me so far?
You'd almost have to think if she didn't intentionally mean to do something, she would never got in here and did what she did.
Okay. Have you told me all the facts as we sit here today on July the 21st, 2009? Have you told me every fact that you know of that you believe supports your allegation that Ms. Pazdar's conduct was intentional with regard to the spreading of lies?
Well, I think it was intentional.
Why do you think that?
Because she shouldn't have never come in here and did what she did.
Okay. And that's the only basis you've got for this intentional, is that she shouldn't have come in and have done what she did, and the basis, and because of that, she intentionally said things that she knew was false. Is that your testimony? Is that the basis of your lawsuit?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, this is my chance. Again, this is my chance to. You can't say I don't know. This is my chance to find
Object to the
out.
extent that it calls for legal conclusion. Again, we try to apply the evidence to the proof to get him to admit that the legal standard is improper when he's not required to know the legal standard.
Can you tell me? I'm just trying to find the facts. Not trying to trick
Facts are is in that other page there where your client comes up here, gets in on the bandwagon, bashes me for all the wrong reasons, and you're trying to sit here and justify it.
And you're talking about the rally at that point. When she comes up here, that's the rally, right? And the letter campaign that she asked folks to take a look at it and send letters into the governor. You didn't like that, did you? Draws light of day on things. Draws attention to you.
For all the wrong reasons. Why? Because she says it, does that make it so?
any other facts, Mr. Hobbs, that support your belief that she was acting intentionally or recklessly? That's
Had
it.
to ask her.
As you sit here, you know of nothing else.
You had to ask her.
Well, I'm asking you, do you know of anything else?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And 23, resulting in severe emotional, mental, and physical injuries. Those are the same injuries that we talked about earlier, paragraph
Over and
21.
over.
Any other injuries?
Nope.
Nope.
I don't know. Emotionally, mentally.
I mean, that's the same we talked about, right? It's
Okay.
the same. Well, no, you can't just agree to me. I'm asking you. Is it the same damages and harm?
Same.
Nothing new. You have to answer out loud, sir.
No.
Paragraph 25 says that the acts of the defendants place plaintiff in a false light. What false light did the letter place you in?
Object to the extent that it calls for a legal conclusion.
What do you claim? What false light do you claim that the letter placed you in?
Same objection.
That's fine.
She put it out there, people believed it.
Okay.
What do you call that?
Some would call it the truth, sir.
And some call it whatever.
All right. Let's look at Exhibit A, which is the letter. Would you agree with me, sir, that from where her signature is through the top is Ms. Pazdar explaining that she thinks, she has the personal belief, I believe that 3 men are in prison for crimes they didn't commit. She tells folks to go to the website, to look at the evidence, and to make a donation to Arkansas Take Action in hopes that the judge will grant a new trial. Would you agree that that's the gist of the letter from her signature to the top?
Object to the extent that it calls for a legal conclusion.
Would you agree that that's the gist of that part of the letter?
I guess.
No matter how many times he is asked, Hobbs refuses to admit that Maine is not accusing him specifically of the murders.
Is that a
I
yes?
haven't read it.
I want you to read it.
No, as of right now, I hadn't read it.
Oh, then I want you to. Well,
Today.
this is what you hadn't read it till today?
No, I have read it before today, but I
Okay.
hadn't taken the time to read it today.
Okay, I want you to read, and we can go off the record while you do that, so we don't burn up tape. I want you to read from the very top where it says November 26, 2000 letter from Natalie Maines, down to where she says, sincerely, Natalie Maines passed on.
I've read it in the past.
Would you need to read it again?
I don't even care about it.
You don't care about it. All right. Well, I want you to tell me, sir, isn't the gist of that part of the letter where she basically says that she thinks the boys were wrongfully convicted, that she encourages people to watch the HBO documentaries, to look at the court findings, and then contribute to the defense fund? It's really a call, please get involved. You'll
Objection.
agree that that's the gist of the letter, right?
Same objection.
Yep.
Okay. And then from where it says, sincerely, Natalie Maines, from there down, which will roll over to the last page, second page, those are the 8 bullet points that attempt to summarize what's in the recent court filings and which had been publicized for many weeks and months earlier, correct?
Okay.
Objection.
Don't you
This
agree with that?
characterizes the evidence.
Yep.
Yep, and you may not agree with the characterization, but you'll agree that that's what you may disagree with the conclusions that the evidence points to, but you'll agree that that's what's in the findings, right, or the filings, correct?
Objection. There's no basis No foundation for
We're
the
going
notion.
objection form. We're not coaching, Ted.
There's no
I will
factual
note your objection to form.
There's no foundation for him having read the pleadings. You cannot get concessions from him what are in or not
You
in
know
the
what?
pleadings when he hasn't read them.
I'm about tired of coaching the witness.
I'm not coaching
Yes,
the witness.
you are. That's exactly what
You
that
haven't
is.
established whether or not he read the
Well,
pleadings.
then object to form and
That's
then
what I
and then
did.
stand by your objection. And if I have a question about which you can enlighten me on, I will
I'm
certainly
going to
ask.
state the basis for my objection.
And not unless I ask. The federal rules say not unless I ask. You object as to form or you instruct the witness not to answer, and I'm about tired and I've about had it of you
I'm
coaching
about had
this
it
witness.
with you trying to get concessions about him from a document that he's never read. There's no foundation for the document. It's not valid. I mean, the judge isn't going to say, oh, Mr. Hobbs says it's a public concern, therefore it must be a public concern. It's just,
You know what?
Yeah, I
You-
think that the point that Dan is making is that you object as to form, and the witness has to say, I haven't read it, so I don't know. You don't tell him that he hasn't read it, so he knows how to answer.
I'm objecting to the lack of foundation
That's
and
objections
that you assume facts that aren't evidence.
I know, it's crazy. You'll agree with me, won't you, Mr. Hobbs, that the points that are following Ms. Pasdar's signature are the very points that are in the press release that I showed you earlier, and which were reported in some of the press clippings that I showed you earlier that attempt to summarize some of the defense filings.
Object is to form.
Thank you.
Mischaracterization of a press release.
The lawyers argue over another point, and Hobbs avoids giving an answer.
I've seen them before.
You've seen them before. And where'd you see them before?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. In the press releases, right?
Right.
In the newspaper, right?
Right.
On the TV,
Right.
in the court filings. Have you?
I haven't
I
read
haven't read
that.
the court filings. Okay. On the in the video press, in the press conference.
I didn't really watch it.
But these are the same things they talked about. You know that.
Object is to form. He says he didn't read it. You can't ask him what they say at it if he said he didn't see it.
You know, I'd like to know the factual basis, or not the facts, the basis on which you think you can say anything more than objection form. Because I'm about ready to seek sanctions from the court, Ted.
Call him up.
We you know what, we just may. And so what's the basis for your belief that you can say anything more than objection form or don't answer the
I'm going
question
to
based
state
on
the factual basis of my
no,
objection.
the rules.
And if you want to do
the
something, then
rules-
do it.
The rules clearly state that all you can say is objection form. And that if I then have a question about whether or not your objection is to form is proper, then I can ask you to explain. But if you don't, the law and the cases, I think, are fairly clear that you step way over the line of proper advocacy when you start to coach the witness by speaking objections. That's the very reason why the rules were amended.
When you say I'm only supposed to object to form,
Yep.
and then you're trying to dump all this stuff in at some other point, and then you're going to be right there saying, well, he didn't state what his objection is.
Ted, you know, I know Dan is from Texas, but you know the rule in Arkansas is what he's stating it is. Any federal judge is going to say object to form, period, and let the deposition continue. You are going overboard. I mean, your record is
I'm going to
preserved.
state,
Your record is
I'm going to
preserved.
preserve the record, because when he says that something 15 times that something is a press release to try to get my client to concede that it's a press release when it's not in fact a press release, I'm going to say something about it.
Objection form preserves it, and you know it. You're a good enough lawyer that you know that.
And saying it, whether it is or isn't a press release is not coaching the witness. It simply isn't. Look at it, it's not a press release.
Are there, I think the record's pretty clear, Mr. Hobbs. I'm okay. From where it says the following is just some of the DNA and forensic evidence that were presented in the federal court hearing. And then it goes through the various eight points. Do you have reason to believe that any of those statements are false?
Any of what statements?
The things that start in late October through the end of this exhibit, are they false?
Object, compound question. You're asking him to get a blanket approval of a long list.
You can answer the question, Mr. Hobbs. And we can take it paragraph by paragraph if you'd like, sir.
Are you asking me if I think any of these statements here are wrong?
Yes.
I would start, you want to do paragraph by paragraph?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Damien Echols was wrongfully convicted.
Okay.
I don't believe that.
Okay. Would you agree with me that the papers that were filed in federal court in Arkansas certainly allege that?
That doesn't mean it's fact, but things like that happen.
Things like what
Object is
happened?
to form. It's in facts, not in evidence.
Things like what happened? Wrongfully convicted? People are wrongfully convicted.
No,
aren't
no, people making statements like this.
they? Okay.
Matter of fact, everything has happened in the courts, as you call it. Nothing has changed.
Okay. You would agree with me that the papers that were filed with the federal court in October attempted to establish that Damien Echols was wrongfully convicted.
Object is to form, lack of foundation.
You know that to be the case from all the press release. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say that he was wrongfully convicted, give him a new trial, right?
You know what? If you were sitting on death row and it was your time to die, and you had a yellow streak running down your back, wouldn't you not come up with any and everything that you could possibly to save your own life?
If I was sitting on death row and didn't do it, I certainly would as well.
Hobbs is opposed to the West Memphis Three getting a retrial. As an innocent parent, Hobbs might be convinced of their guilt and resent any attempts to overturn their conviction. As the guilty party himself, he would prefer to let innocent men suffer in prison rather than risk having the investigation turned toward him.
Well, you should have sat in the same trial that I sat in, then you probably wouldn't be thinking like that.
So do you think Damien Echols is not entitled to pursue and exhaust his legal rights, sir?
I think his legal rights should be removed from him from day one after a conviction.
Okay.
But the appeals process allows him to do this kind of stuff right here,
Okay.
which is kind of a system that needs reworked.
Okay. You would agree with me, though, as part of that appellate process, that Mr. Echols' defense team had made a filing that in October attempted to persuade the judge that he was wrongfully convicted.
They give it their best shot.
They gave it their best shot. Would you also agree that the filing that was made in October included DNA evidence that did not link any of the three boys to the crime scene?
Object is to form, lack of foundation.
Just asking from your understanding, sir.
I've heard that
Okay. You went to the trial, right, every day?
every day.
And you know that the prosecution claimed that Mr. Echols had sodomized the boys, right?
One of them.
One of them. And none of Mr. Echols' DNA was found on any of the boys, including the one that was allegedly sodomized, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Matter of fact, the only DNA that was found on the boys was DNA that couldn't be identified to anyone. Isn't that right?
Okay.
Is that right?
I don't know.
Well, other than yours, of course.
They've never said nothing about mine. This defense team brought mine up. It wasn't the law. This is what they do.
This is what they filed. They filed it as public record, correct?
Object is to form, lack of foundation.
I mean, that's your understanding that the defense team made that public filing in an attempt to persuade the judge that the boys were deserving of a new trial, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever spoken with anyone about what was in the habeas corpus filings?
Nope. Not that I know of.
That's fine. I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir. We were going through Exhibit A to Exhibit 2, which is your complaint, and asking you from Ms. Pazdar's signature down what you felt was false. What was set out in there that was false. And I guess we're up to the first bullet point on the second page. And I know from your testimony that you disagree with the fact that DNA tests show that hair belonging to you was found in the ligature of one of the victims. Correct?
I've heard that. I still ain't been convinced that it was.
Okay. You have heard that that was contained in the... even though you have not read, you have heard that that was contained in the filings, correct?
Hobbs stubbornly refuses to accept that it is his DNA, even though there is a reasonable explanation for why it might have been found on one of the boys. If he is so confident of the guilt of the other men, it isn't clear why he feels the need to distance himself from the DNA.
Right.
And you have heard, and you know from reading the various press releases, and not press releases, the press articles, and the TV reports, that that was widely circulated beginning in June of '07. That was widely publicized to the public that your DNA was found in the ligature of one of the victims, correct?
Of course.
Of course. And matter of fact, we looked at the press article, one of the press pieces earlier, where the West Memphis police attributed your DNA being found to secondary transfer, right? That's how they explained it.
Okay.
Isn't that right?
All right.
I mean, that's how they explained it, right? Do you recall when we looked at that press article?
Right.
And in fact, is it really a surprise that they had to do that, Mr. Hobbs, given the fact that they had spent so much money and so much time convicting 3 boys years earlier of that crime, that they said, well, they secondary transferred? Does that surprise you?
Objective to form, like foundation.
What are you saying,
Lack of
David?
personal knowledge.
I'm asking if it surprised you, given the fact that the West Memphis police had spent so much time and so much money over the years saying they got it right with the convictions, that when DNA attributed to someone else was found in the ligature of one of the victims, that they attributed it to secondary transfer.
What if it was secondary transfer?
What if it wasn't?
What are you saying?
Saying that there could be a question about whether or not you were somehow involved in these crimes.
Well, who says that?
Well,
Bunch of quacks.
well, we've got 4 volumes of stipulations of people from the New York Times to CNN to 360.
Sound like a
that say
bunch
that.
of quacks.
Objection to form, false characterization of what's in the stipulations.
How do you...
Why don't you call the police department and talk to them? Maybe they'll help you out and point you in the right direction.
How do you explain Mr. Jacoby's statement? I mean, not statement, Mr. Jacoby's DNA, which is
I
the
had
second
no
bullet point.
explanation for that.
Objectives to form, like
We
a
was in them
foundation.
woods
Lack
all
of
night.
personal knowledge.
You were in those woods all night, just you and Mr. Jacoby.
No, we done been over that.
Yes, we have.
You
And so-
forget?
No, I didn't forget. My
Objectives
question
to
is,
form,
were
lack
you
of
and Mr.
foundation.
Jacoby in those woods all night?
Along with other people. I thought we done talked about that.
You and Mr. Jacoby, were you guys ever alone when you were searching?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, it might have been a while.
Might have been a while that
Yep.
you guys were alone.
Yeah.
And it's your testimony, Mr. Jacoby was with you all night in the woods.
We were together quite a bit that night.
No, it's not my question. My question is, you testified earlier that you and Mr. Jacoby were together all night in the woods until it was time for him to go to work.
Exactly.
And so is that
Yeah.
your story, or are you changing it?
No, we were.
All night, you and him together,
Up until he went to work.
which was at what time?
And remember a while ago I testified that he was with Pam at one point?
Who
Did
was
you
with
forget that?
Who was with you when he was with Pam?
Probably her dad.
Okay. So at no point were you alone.
No.
It was either you and Mr. Jacoby or you and Pam's dad.
Or me and Pam and her dad.
Okay. All night. Pam never stayed home. Pam didn't stay.
No,
And
Pam
you didn't go out
stay
by
home.
yourself in the woods.
Objective
No.
to form, ask and answer. We went over this earlier today.
Did you go out in the woods by yourself between 2 and 6 o'clock?
No,
Have you ever told anybody you did?
no.
fourth bullet point.
Is it hard to accept the truth?
No, sir. It's
You
not.
don't need to interact with him like that, sir.
All right.
Anything else you want to tell me?
Nope.
You sure?
Positive.
This is your chance.
I'm out of here.
Fourth bullet point, scientific evidence. Some of the nation's leading forensic experts stating the wounds on the victims' bodies were caused by animals at the crime scene, not by knives used by the perpetrators. That was part of the filings in the court proceeding that you're aware of that, right? From reading the press articles?
Objectives to form like foundation of personal knowledge.
That's your understanding, right? You have to answer out loud.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a secret what's in there. We can all read it. It's right there, right?
exactly.
When pressed, Hobbs is unable to deny that he knows the contents of the statement.
This kind of shoots down the theory that you used a while ago about the knives. You know? Now you got forensics.
You mean the knife? You mean Stevie's knife?
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between the wounds being caused by knives and someone taking the knife that was on Stevie's body at the time of the murder and having it in their house after the murder.
Objectives to form assumes facts not in evidence.
Did you take the knife from Stevie?
Years before.
Years before. When did he get the knife?
I don't remember.
You remember how old he was when he got the knife? Years
No, I
before?
don't.
Who gave him the knife? His grandfather?
It's possible.
Well, that kind of gets us to the next bullet point. There were sworn affidavits outlining new evidence by Pam Hobbs about finding the knife, Stevie's knife in Terry's, meaning your drawer, which had been carried by Stevie at all times.
Objectives to form like a foundation.
You have an understanding from the press articles and discussions with folks that evidence was in the federal court filings as well, wasn't it?
To
Okay.
form like a personal knowledge.
Do you have that understanding that was in there?
Yeah.
Okay, and how'd you get that understanding?
Reading the papers.
Reading the papers. You talk to Pam?
Oh, yeah.
You talk to Pam, say, Pam, did Pam tell you, hey, I found Stevie's knife in your drawer. What the heck were you doing with it?
No.
You think that's one of the reasons why Pam thinks you killed Stevie?
No, Pam don't think that.
Pam doesn't think you killed Stevie?
No, sir. Pam knows better.
Well, you've said many times and quoted many times in the press, and it's even in your journal that Pam and the family think that you killed those 3 little boys.
Yeah, when they're mad, they say anything. When they're not mad, they'll tell you the truth.
So it's only when they get mad that they accuse you of triple homicide.
Oh, yeah.
They'll do anything when they get mad.
You have to ask them.
You have a temper?
Huh? I try not to have.
Were you mad when you shot your brother-in-law?
No.
No?
I tried to avoid that.
By sitting out on your car with your gun in the back of your in
So?
the belt with 350 with hollow point bullets? Why'd you have the gun
It's my
if
gun.
you were trying to avoid it?
I had called the police twice.
How many guns do you own?
None at the present.
How many did you own back in '93?
2 or 3.
Well, tell me about them. What kinds?
I don't remember.
No, do you recall the type, the millimeter?
357,
What other kind?
25, 9mm.
Okay, any other kind of guns?
No.
What happened to the guns?
Probably the Hickses stole them.
Do you have the guns now?
No.
When did you last recall seeing the guns?
During that time,
During the '93 time frame?
94.
93, 94 time frame? You aware that the police found a gun in the Robin Hood Hills area?
No, I don't care about that.
You recall if it was the same caliber of gun that you just said you had that now you don't know where it is?
No.
No? Would that surprise you that they found a gun with the same?
To me.
The presence of a gun at the crime scene doesn't upset Hobbs. Even if it was connected to him, the boys were not shot, so it is hardly an indication of guilt.
Don't mean nothing to you?
Nah, don't
Why
mean
not?
nothing. Go name my gun.
And your gun. Where is your gun?
Good. Ask the Hickses. They take stuff.
I'm asking you. Don't you think it's reasonable for a gentleman who carries 3 guns and has shot at least one person to know where their firearms are, Mr. Hobbs?
No.
Did you drop the gun in the woods on the night of
One's
May
in
the
jail.
5th? Did you
And
drop
the
the gun
other
in the
two.
woods on the night of May the 5th?
No, I didn't carry a gun.
Did you have a gun with you on the night of May the 5th?
No.
Did you drop it in the woods on the morning of May the 6th?
Didn't have it with me.
Where was it?
I don't even think, yeah, I had a gun back then. But
Where
no,
was it?
I couldn't tell you. Probably at home.
Where'd you keep your guns at home?
In the drawers.
What drawers? Where?
I couldn't tell you.
You don't remember where you kept your guns?
One of them in my truck.
Is that the 357?
That's one of them.
Where'd you keep the other? Where'd you keep the 357 other than in your back pocket?
In my truck.
In your truck. So you kept 2 guns in your truck, and where'd you keep the third one?
Probably in the house.
Which one did you keep in the house? The 9 mil?
Probably. I don't remember.
Don't remember. When you were out traipsing around West Memphis on the night of May the 5th or May the 6th, were you afraid for your safety at all?
Nope.
Is that because you had a gun?
Didn't have one.
Didn't have one with you? Did you have knives with you that night?
No.
No? We need to go off the record, sir, because the videographer needs to change tapes.
We're going off record for a tape change at 3:11 p.m.
During Miss Kelly's trial, Richard Oshie, an expert on false confessions and police coercion and professor of sociology at UC Berkeley, testified that the brief recording of Miss Kelly's interrogation was a classic example of police coercion. Critics have also stated that Miss Kelly's various confessions were in many respects inconsistent with each other, as well as with the particulars of the crime scene and murder victims. On February 5, 1994, Miss Kelly was convicted by a jury of 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder. The court sentenced him to life plus 40 years in prison. His conviction was appealed, but the Arkansas Supreme Court affirmed the conviction. 3 weeks later, Eccles and Baldwin went on trial. The prosecution accused the 3 young men of committing a satanic murder. The court sentenced Eccles to death and Baldwin to life in prison. On November 4, 2010, the Arkansas Supreme Court ordered a lower judge to consider whether newly analyzed DNA evidence might exonerate the 3. The justices also instructed the lower court to examine claims of misconduct by the jurors who sentenced Damian Eccles to death and Jesse Miss Kelly and Jason Baldwin to life in prison. After weeks of negotiations, on August 19, 2011, Eccles, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly were released from prison as a part of a plea deal. Under the deal, Judge David Lasser vacated the previous convictions, including the capital murder convictions for Eccles and Baldwin, and ordered a new trial. Each man then entered an Alford plea to lesser charges of first and second-degree murder while verbally stating their innocence. Judge Lasser then sentenced them to time served, a total of 18 years and 78 days, and they were each given a suspended imposition of sentence for 10 years. If they reoffended, they can be sent back to prison for 21 years. In 2010, District Judge Brian S. Miller ordered Terry Hobbs to pay $17,590 to Dixie Chicks singer Natalie Maines for legal costs stemming from a defamation lawsuit he filed against the band. Miller dismissed a suit Hobbs filed over Maines' remarks and writings implying that he was involved in killing his stepson. The judge said Hobbs had chosen to involve himself in public discussion over whether the convictions were just. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like the video. And if you want to support the channel even more, there's a Patreon link in the description below. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.